espresso. Whoa, holy crap. Look at all these controllers. Well, anyway, go through a few of these because these are for PlayStation 2, which is my favorite console. Definitely one of the top 5 consoles of all time in my books, anyway. So you have your regular PlayStation controller, which everybody knows and loves. So that's how it works in my normal hands, which I consider normal size. And the weight's fine. Just seems to be the right weight, and everyone's used to that sort of weight. So the other controllers that you can get are these generic ones here, just made in China, as far as I know. And the buttons are okay. Triggers are so-so. They're always really wobbly. The actual direction pad is really awful. It's this weird diamond curve shape. Not too accurate and not really the best angle on them. It works. Funny enough, the analog sticks are actually okay. If you get a new one, they're pretty much tight. The handy thing on this is you've got turbo, slow, which is just pause all the time. The analog lights up just like the regular ones. Select and start's actually in a good spot. The shape's actually pretty good. And it's got this handy clear button, which is actually quite handy in case you're going a bit crazy with your turbo and your slow buttons and you want everything to reset back to normal again. Apart from that, pretty average feel to it. Yeah, not really the best, but if there isn't anything else around, these do work okay, but the direction pad is really bad. Not too big on that one. The next one here is Joyetech. This one here, strange kind of feel. The direction pad is a really weird shape. But funny enough, it actually works quite well. It's actually reasonably precise. The analog sticks, depending on the wear and tear, it feels like a little bit more throw, but quite springy and quite good. The actual buttons aren't too bad, but there's a slight dimple shape in the middle here, which I find a little bit odd. But the triggers are really horrible. They just feel very sort of short step buttony. Doesn't work too great. But yeah, that's Joyetech, and also the select and analog buttons are all in the middle, like really close. The weight to it's quite good though, so that's not too bad. Now we've got the True Blue accessories by Honeybee. This one here, it's really weird with the sharp sides. This one had the rubberized analog sticks and they've worn right down, so you'd have to replace these caps with something. The actual spring is pretty good. Once again, the direction pad is just a little bit odd feeling, mainly because it's got that center aspect to the direction pad. Very springy, a bit too hoppy. The buttons are so-so as well, but these triggers are horrible as well. Anything with these slimline kind of triggers don't really give the best feel to your shooting. And personally, I don't think these are ideal, just with the feeling of them, and also switching between them. There's not really too much of a difference in the feel there. This also has the turbo button, and it's like the start that's kind of in the middle and it's pretty badly done. It's kind of just a quick mishmash. The weight's a little bit off as well, feels a little bit heavier. It's a bit strange. This one, this is the Belkin Nostromo. This is a really strange one. It looks really interesting, that's why I had to get it. But unfortunately, while the build and the shape is really interesting, the weight's not too bad, but overall the shape just doesn't work for anything. Basically, you've got the actual analogs way too close, and look, they're actually very close to hitting each other. Obviously you'll never do that often, but yeah, just a weird feel. And then your hand's actually splitting out like that. The direction pad's really average. It's got a strange curved feel to it. It looks cool, but like you can actually program some buttons in there as well. The mode there is for analog. It just feels really wrong. And the buttons themselves, because you're doing this, the buttons actually don't work too well. And these triggers are probably almost the worst triggers I've experienced. Like there's a fair bit of throwing, maybe based on usage, but even the bottom ones just don't feel right. But the actual shape, it looks interesting, but it's actually barely ergonomic for it. It just looks cool. That's pretty much all I can vouch for with it. Even this thing here for the cord doesn't need to be chunked out like that. It's just really weird. The weight's actually not too bad though. It's kind of funny. Then we've got my faves here. Oh, I'll go to those shortly. But this one is my Token Player 2 one. This is a Power Wave in China, and it's actually really light feeling. The sticks are actually not too bad, the analog sticks. It's got analog turbo on there as well, but the actual buttons here are a bit smaller and quite far apart. It feels really weird. So you actually got a little distance and an odd feeling there. Funny enough, the triggers aren't too bad, slightly better than the Belkin. But yeah, this is like my Token one for Player 2s. It's just a funny, amusing one anyway. The smallest one I've got here is a badged GameStop one. You might have seen these around. I think they do occur quite often. It's a really funny one because I scored this with an NTSC PS2, and it's essentially GameStop, but it's originally done by Mad Catz, and it's actually probably like the smallest ones I've seen. It kind of, you can almost grip the whole thing. The only thing I really like is that it's got the analog button just in the middle there. You can actually like quickly press it, done. The analog sticks are horrible. They just move really average. The shape's bad as well. You'll need to put caps on these as well, but not too much point. It's like so small, compact. This might be okay for traveling, but that's really the only plus. The direction pad is awful, and these buttons are the opposite of that other controller. They're actually so close together. You can pretty much mash all four together if you wanted to. They're like tiny. It's just so compact, and these triggers are just horrible, like how close they are. And yeah, the top ones are not comfortable to use at all, and you can't really, I mean, I'm sure it could be for kids or something, but really just not fun to use. So the last two that I've got here are actually my faves, and funny enough, they're the Mad Catz ones. Oh yeah, so the actual regular PlayStation 2 one versus this GameStop badge one, you can see like the difference in the size there. It's like a smidge smaller, but because it's much smaller, the proportions and everything just don't work. I think I could have actually like probably curved this one a bit nicer, and it would have worked then, but that's fine. So yeah, my two fave third-party ones is funny enough from Mad Catz, and they're essentially called Dual Force 2s, and one is an early model, 2000. This one's a 2001, and this is a Dual Force 2 2002. My favourite is the 2002. Firstly, like with the 2001, the actual shape's pretty good. It's like just, you know, the usual PlayStation 2 shape. The triggers are fine, but the actual, you've got the cross shape with the main buttons, that's fine. The direction pad's actually not too shabby. This one's a circular one, which has a little bit of throw and a bit of odd springiness to it. The analog sticks are great, happy with those. And the weird thing is here is actually the start and turbo. And select all on middle cluster, which is kind of an interesting shape. Interesting to look at. Every now and then, just check the condition of the actual rubber pads as well. This one is quite good. Some, if you see in photos and you can't see the rubber pads, I'd probably give them a miss, because if they're worn out or anything, they can be pretty detrimental to your playing and just how the feel of it. So this one does have rubberization underneath, but then my favorite one being the actual Dual Force 2, but from 2 years later. It's actually got a good ergonomic indents here, which actually works nice here, which is good. Of course, wearing on the analogs, so I normally put caps on these, but even then it's just a plastic finish to it, but it's actually quite good. Throws good. It's actually a good shape, a little bit meatier around here. The direction pad's great. This one's same as the actual, similar to the PlayStation 1, and just small throw, but this one analog's down here in the middle, which I think is much better, but handy enough. It's actually got the select and start right there, and the actual trigger buttons are pretty good. But overall, I'm happy with this one because of the shape, and the actual button part here works quite well still. It's just the right spacing, which pretty much the rule is, like, if you're doing the spacing for these buttons, just follow the same spacing as the PlayStation ones, because everyone's so used to it from the PlayStation 1, 2 and 3. But the rest is kind of just a simple rule. This one, like, a little bit chunkier, but the weight's actually quite good, and the shape to this one I prefer. Like, actually concave there, but I really think the bonus is with the handle, and I prefer the non-rubberized handle myself. But yeah, it's quite nice in blue. I think you can get them in purple and red as well, which is quite cool. So yeah, that's some of the two-party, third-party controllers that you can get for PlayStation 2. Generally, like, I personally just go for some of the Mad Catz ones, just depending on how much wear and tear they get. But at least then you know the shapes are quite good and they work quite well. The rest of these I just keep as a bit of a novelty, but I'll probably get rid of a few. And I definitely steer away mainly from any that you think are smaller and compact. They just feel wrong. And no matter what you're playing, it just doesn't seem right with a lot of things. This versus a SNES style controller, I would rather go for something more of a SNES style for a compact controller. But because you're playing PlayStation and you need something a lot meatier, you definitely need to go with something with a decent size, but also just a generally good overall feel, but nice button placing. So I'm quite happy with this one, actually. So yeah, that's a few of the controllers, and I'll probably feature a few USB ones as well as a few arcade ones that I like to use as well. So yeah, I'll put some more info on there, but yeah, check it out.